had a dream that I was left behind during a rapture. And that dream scared me so bad. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Okay, so in the first part of the dream, there was 3 tents. And in the first tent, when you walked in, there was like artifacts of like satanic stuff, right? Basically showing who was following the devil. And then the second tent, it showed satanic stuff and it showed artifacts of Allah, basically the Muslim God. Basically, God was showing me in these tents, like the whole time they was actually following the devil and they weren't actually following God. I'm gonna show you what the tents look like. They look just like this. So you had to like actually go inside the tent to see what was in it. And when he was showing me the tents, it was so dark and gloomy outside. Like it was super dark and it was just really demonic. I didn't get to see what was in the third tent, but let's fast forward to the other part of the dream. Okay, so I'm walking down the street, right, and I see this car, and basically the windows was rolled down. It was some pizza sitting up in there, and I was like, oh, this person left their food, right? So I take the pizza, I'm eating it, and it felt so real. Like I taste the dough, the seasoning, the cheese, it's hot. Like the dream felt so real. And this was like before the rapture, but it was like abandoned cars like everywhere. It just felt normal. Like I didn't think nothing of it. But I feel like God put that segment in my dream right there to be like, hey, I want you to know that this is real, and he wanted it to feel real to me, which is why I was eating that pizza. Okay, so in the next half, I hear one trumpet, and it was just like loud and it was long. It lasted for like 5-10 seconds. And then I ran home and I was like, oh my goodness, like Jesus is coming back, like thank God. And then I was like, okay, I want to see what it looked like when I ascend, right? So I'm looking in the mirror, and the mirror is super like disformed. It kind of looks like a fuzzy mirror, right? But as I'm looking in this mirror, I'm seeing like people I've seen on TikTok, like they would look at God and be like, and they would turn bright gold and ascend into heaven. And I was just seeing so many people that I've seen on TikTok and random people just ascending. And I'm looking like, okay, Lord, like that was me. And I'm closing my eyes like, why isn't it happening? And I'm panicking. I can feel my heart beating right now just talking about it. But I noticed I was not ascending into heaven. And I thought about this one TikTok, and it was just so vivid and God was so loud in my ear. Matthew 7:22 says, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons? And in your name perform many miracles? Then I would tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evil doers. And God said it so plainly and so clear to me, and I freaked out. In rapture movies, people just be like, oh my God, like where's my sister, where's my brother? It's so much more chaotic than that. Okay, so after I seen everybody ascend, I'm literally looking in the mirror like, no, like why am I still here? And I'm running around the room, I'm freaking out, I'm screaming like dramatically. And I ran into my closet. I was like, this can't be real, like this has to be a dream. So I go into my closet and I literally start grabbing all the bottles, like I'm touching everything. I was like, this is real. Everything felt so real in my hands. Like I was like, oh my goodness, this is real. And I'm thinking about the real world right now. Like the Antichrist has not come, the mark of the beast is still not here yet. I was like, God, it's too early. Like I thought I had time. But in the dream, I'm literally pulling my hair like, no, like this cannot be. Like I'm screaming like, no, like why am I here? Like God forgive me. I'm kicking, I'm screaming, I'm punching, like I'm throwing everything, like throwing a temper tantrum on the floor, screaming, crying, kicking. I run outside, and apparently I stay across the street from a church, and I'm literally still outside looking around, looking at all the chaos, and I'm literally just running around in a circle, like bending down, like no, like what is going on? Like I'm not supposed to be here. And I'm literally just pouring, crying, like it was just so dramatic and real, like something out of a movie. But even when I got left behind, I was just like, it's because I stole the pizza, wasn't it? Like I was freaking out. I'm like, God, I'm so sorry, like I will never do it again. But as I'm in the church, I hear people outside shooting. Like they had automatic weapons. It was chaos. It was going crazy outside. And I don't know if y'all have ever seen Bird Box, but the people, they were having a joyride. Like they were lighting up everything, like having a good old time in chaos. And I knew they was gonna start shooting, so I ended up hiding somewhere under the stage of the church. And I was convinced, like, okay, if I die right now, like I'm going to go to hell. Like the only way I can make it to heaven is if I get beheaded, right? And in that moment, I was just like, I'm gonna be here for 7 years, and it was just like hell on earth. And in a sense, I got jealous, and I was just like, oh my goodness, they get to be over us for 7 years. Like that's supposed to be the last thing on my mind. And in that moment, I was just like, there's no time to check your phones or none of that. But as I'm hiding from these people, because I thought they was going to come into church and shoot us, I was like, this is it. Like, I'm really going to go to hell. Like, oh my goodness. And before they enter into the church, they knocked on the door. They was like, hey, can you let me in? And the pastor's like, what's your name? He was going to let him in that door too. And I was like, this is it. But literally right before he opened up the door, I literally woke up out the dream. And I was so convinced that it was real until I woke up. And I was just like, thank God the fear of the Lord struck my heart like so deeply, and I instantly was like, God forgive me, like I repent. Like I was in shock, like it felt so real. And it be so many sins that we hold on to. We be like, oh, like I want to live my life. It don't matter. And it's like a lot of people don't want to give up having sex before marriage, modesty, secular music, fornication, drugs, alcohol, going to the club. Don't none of that matter. Let it go, y'all. I promise you, it's not that deep. And in that moment, you really sit there and think to yourself, like, was it that hard for me to let go of that sin? And you really realize in that moment, like, it was never that deep. Like, I could have easily let it go. But literally doing that whole time, I'm just like, God, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, I repent. I just kept saying it over and over and over. And it just felt like I just wasn't forgiven. Even after I woke up, I was just like, oh my goodness. Like the next second, the next minute, none of that is promised, y'all. Just imagine if Jesus came back now, like, would you be ready? And imagine if he were and he was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave you behind. Like, that is so scary.